the not being able to, meet our friends. Those anxieties and fear are quite real, right? So when we are anxious, and at the same time, when our kids are going through this sort of anxiety, it almost seems like we are failing as parents. And this seems to be not ending at all. So as time is passing by, a part of it is getting used to this new reality, but another part of it is also getting more frustrated. And I think what we have done is to see what kind of rules can we bend during this time. So for example, if there's screen time which was allowed to be 1 hour a day before the pandemic, MASOOMA is in, thank God. So now it's been, cut down to, it's been increased to 2.5 hours on some days as well. So just to kind of give you an idea of bending some rules to see what's working for us. I guess MASOOMA is on. MASOOMA, are you there now? If you can switch on your video. MASOOMA, can you hear us? Seeing her name in the panelist is a good idea, but it seems that she's joined from 2 places. So we are making some progress.
Her audio is not yet connected, so we are waiting for that.
Thank you, Hamza.
Yeah.
So guys, feel free to write your questions throughout the webinar, whatever is coming to you, and I will keep reviewing them in the process. And whatever comes up, then I will redirect those questions. I can start by introducing MASOOMA because just in the interest of time, and hopefully her video and audio would be connected because she is here. So I'm assuming we're almost there. So MASOOMA is a friend of mine, a teacher of mine. She's got 20 years of experience of being a therapist, and she's got a master's. Her official qualification is a master's in marriage and family counseling. And there is MASOOMA. Hi, MASOOMA. If you can unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm on my phone and my son is trying to get me on the computer so I don't have to hold it. So I'll start talking to here and then I'll transition. Yeah.
Good. I was just, in the interest of time, I just started introducing you because when you weren't logging in, I was like, okay, I need to think of plan B. And I almost started my own parenting seminar without preparation. But good to have you here. MASOOMA is currently in Beijing. She's been living there for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And to be honest, my confession here is that when this whole pandemic, or not at that time pandemic, when the Chinese, when it started in China, this coronavirus thing, and I was speaking to MASOOMA and I was feeling so bad, and she was telling me, the schools are shut and what the kind of situation is, and a part of me was feeling, oh God, like we're so lucky. And literally within 2 weeks, the world as we knew it in Pakistan has completely changed. So at least we could, relate to this experience. MASOOMA, I was just introducing them that the participants to you of how you are a marriage and a family counselor who's a certified mindfulness teacher as well. So she uses a lot of mindfulness in her techniques and working with clients. And she also happens to be a certified positive discipline parent facilitator, which comes in very handy, I believe, because she's got 3 kids of her own from age 5 to just a teenager. Now your daughter is 13 or yeah, so she's 13. Got the full range.
Yeah.
So I think MASOOMA, let's just start the conversation. Like what you have to share once you're and the participants will continue to write their Q&A, and towards the end, I'll read out some questions, or maybe we can try and see if we could, maybe bring some participants on as well to see if they have a question to ask as well. So why don't we start?
Sure. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So my son is still trying to log me into the computer so that it'd be easier for me so I don't have to hold the phone. But in the meanwhile, we'll continue. So I have two requests. My first request is that you get a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen near you somewhere, because I'm going to have you do some writing, reflecting exercise a little bit later on, so you don't have to get up then. And my second request, which is more challenging for some than others, is see if you can stay with me through this seminar without checking your messages or looking at your phone. And I know I can't see you, so that means you have more freedom. But it's really interesting because in this world right now, what I'm noticing is that whenever we find a moment where either we're bored or distracted for whatever reason, we do tend to like reach for our phone for a second, right? Now I'm on a bigger screen. Here we go. Okay. Stop. Okay, you can go to the video. So just give me a second while I transition onto the computer. I'm just gonna leave this.
I hope she stopped it.
What's her video?
Ask him to change the settings.
It's because no. If you started there, then you can't.
No, I'm telling him. What? Just
Please.
go like this? Why is it? Why have you blocked it?
Okay. Oh, there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Azan, I just go like this.
Yeah. Because it's an old version of Zoom. Because it's
Okay.
a web, you can't see
Okay.
anyone.
Okay. Where is
We
Muzaffar?
can hear you. So you're good.
Here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Perfect. And you can see me, right?
Yes.
Okay, you can hear me, you can see me. Okay, wonderful. Sorry everyone for the delay, but things in China don't work as freely as in other parts of the world. But here we are. Okay, so I'm inviting you to take the next 35, 40 minutes that we're together and notice when the urge to like look at the phone, just see if you can resist the urge to check the phone for the next 40 minutes. If your children come into the room, no worries. But we're going to try to manage the phone. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start by coming into the present moment. And I know that I've had a few hectic moments before this moment. So it's just as much for me as it is for all of you. So the way we come into the present moment is I invite you to, if you're sitting on a chair, to find both your feet flat on the floor and sit in a position that's alert yet relaxed. So you don't have to be tense. So just sit back in your chair, use the support. And if your shoulders might be automatically up, so just drop them a couple of times. And really allow yourself to close your eyes for a moment. And if that doesn't feel comfortable, you can keep them open, or you can keep your gaze on your desk or whatever's in front of you. Just take this moment to go inwards. And this is just a very simple grounding practice. So the intention is coming into your body space, your heart space, and out of whatever is going on in your mind. So this is an invitation to let go of whatever came before this moment and whatever will arise after. And the way we do that is by using our senses, especially the feeling of our physical body. We start by noticing the weight of your feet as they make contact with the earth. Notice how gravity and the ground just supports you effortlessly. Notice the weight of your body on your chair. Notice your hands, the palms of your hands. And notice your heart beating. And of course, while you're noticing all the things I'm asking you to note, the mind is going to do what the mind does and create thoughts, or feelings might be arising. You might notice anxiousness, restlessness. So I just invite you to name whatever you're noticing and let it go and come back to the anchor, which in this moment is your body. Maybe you feel like taking a nice long exhale. So if that's what you need, just let it out. Notice how just taking a few moments here allows us to settle the nervous system. The nervous system, which is so wired to notice any stress, anxiety, fear. We're giving it the signal that it is safe right now to let go, to rest, and to come home for this moment. We're not trying to change anything. We're not trying to make you more peaceful. There's no goal. It's just to be with whatever is in this moment, fully accepting of the reality that is present. And now I ask you to bring your hands up, palms facing the ceiling, like you're holding two apples in your hands, with your eyes closed. And I want you to ask yourself, how do you know that you have hands in this moment? Your eyes are closed. And that is the sensed experience. That is a deep knowing that you are able to receive without intellectually knowing. That's what we call a felt sense. And now I would like you to move all your fingers together into a fist and just hold the fist close. And notice what that might feel like on a sensory level. And then exhale out and open the palms as you exhale. And then when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into the room. And just notice what it's like in this moment for you. You may be having things going on in the room, the kids, people passing, and just see if you can keep your attention here and stay with me for as long as possible. So, Muzaffar, do you want me to begin or do you have something?
Please go ahead, we're ready.
Okay, so the first thing I'd like to say is I'm very grateful to be here, and all of us are very blessed to be a part of this VLC community. And just the fact that you are here and you chose to tune in and be present, to me shows that you are ready to awaken as a parent and as a human. And that in itself, as far as I'm concerned, has already given your children more gifts than you can imagine. So the intention and the attention is what we talk about in mindfulness. So the intention to be here and be present, and then bring your attention to actually learning and growing so that you may responsibly raise these lives that you've been gifted, is something that I think takes a lot of courage. And I often laugh and say parents usually come into the room because they want to know how they can fix their children. And they usually leave realizing, oh my God, it wasn't my kids, it was me. And let's see how you feel at the end of this talk. I'll put my money on it that you will also have a similar realization. So like Muzaffar said, I missed what he said to introduce me, but I'm very qualified to do this only based on one fact, and that is I am human, I'm a mother, and I have 3 children. So I am in the trenches just as much as you. My trainings and whatever degrees I have are less relevant, I think, than the fact that I am here sharing with you what my experiences have been, and I've actually used the tools that I'm going to share with you. And I've tried a lot of things. I've knocked on many doors, and this is the one that's landed for me in terms of really helping the kids and me, mostly me. And then as a result, they just magically change. And so that's why I want to share it. That's why I live it. And that doesn't mean that I have some perfect life, right? And I always joke, and in one of the classes that I taught, even at VLC, I showed this picture of my husband and my 3 children ranging from 13, 11 to 5 sitting on this holiday meditating. And it's in Thailand where we used to live. And I always joke and say, why is it that every time I open Facebook, all you see is people on vacation, looking perfect, smiling, everyone is only having a good time on holidays, right? But it's really ironic because that only lasts in my family for about 48 hours, right? The honeymoon period of the holiday where everyone's really excited to be on the holiday, and then the breakdowns begin. No one's photographing that, right? Unfortunately, we should put that on Facebook. So that's the first thing I want to say is I wrote down my intentions for what I really hope that when we're done speaking with each other, that you walk away with feeling that someone like me who's been studying this for 20 years is in the same boat with an added little extra step, which is that I have some awareness about what I'm doing, which I hope to be able to offer you. But we're all in this together. And parenting, let's just take a moment to acknowledge. I laugh with my friends and say, how many people would have had kids if they really knew what they were getting into? And how many would have had the number they have, right? In fact, we keep having them even after we have them, because they are so incredible and they're such wonderful teachers. And while you're in the trenches, it's the trenches, right? And we're all just making the best of whatever resources and skills we have, trying to do the best we can. And it's really hard. So if we just need to take a moment to acknowledge that being a parent, full stop, is so hard. My husband is a banker and he says that he would rather go to work any day than stay home because he can't manage the kids. He can still manage his work. So I don't know if that's just an easy escape for him, but yeah, here I am and trying to do both. So we are all in the trenches, and now if we come back into real time in this very moment, not are we in the usual trenches of being a parent, but most of our worst fears have come true, right? We're locked up in a house with everybody, with no personal space, with no routine, with no schooling. I mean, Monday was my favorite day of the week as a mother, right? I mean, everybody leaves and I love the sound of the vacuum cleaner. I like the smell of Dettol in the floors being cleaned. I love all of that. That's my favorite day of the week, Monday, right? And Monday's gone. There is no Monday. Every day is just the same. It's Saturday every day, right? So you add, on top of the parenting stress, we add chaos. We add the routines are over. The schooling is over. Our personal space is done. We're locked up. We are in the midst of uncertainty like we've never known before. And as human beings, uncertainty is one of the most difficult emotions to be with, right? We in our survival mode, we like to know what's next. It makes us feel safe. So there's a collective universal sense of safety that's gone. So not only is it gone for us, but it's gone for them. So I just want to take a moment to recognize and name that this is for real. And it's for real for every parent alive on this planet. I don't think there's any parent who can say, I'm not affected at all. We are all affected in our own way. So that is the most important thing that I really want you to take to heart and admit to yourself, and to understand that it's not easy, and it's okay if it's not easy. We also need to just admit that to each other. And if I was in a room where I could see you, I'd love to see your heads going up and down, and I can see Muzaffar's head going up and down, so I know that I'm still in contact with someone. And according to attachment theory, which is all about
that human beings thrive in their later life based on how well they attach in their early years, right? And attachment is about connection. So the stronger the connection in the early years, you've seen and read and heard, the better it is long term. Now, what's happened in this pandemic is that connection has been severed, right? So there's a pressure on the immediate family and the extended family to meet all those needs. And the outer connections of the kids and our social life, the kids contacting their teachers, you know, us going to wherever we used to go to feel our sense of community, all those connections have been broken. So there's a collective trauma that arises when that connection is broken. And that's, I hope that helps you sort of put it into context of why there's so much anxiety around this, because we are missing a very important human need. So I think maybe some of you may be thinking, okay, thanks for all the bad news. Now what are we going to do about it? So I promise you there's going to be some things we can do about it. And it's not all bad news, but it is what it is in this moment. And that's really how it is. So now if we move into your homes right now, I'd like you to close your eyes for a minute and check in and ask yourself, what is the hardest thing for you about this? What is challenging you right now in this moment? As a human, as a parent, as a person living through these times. And when I ask you that question, you'll notice that the mind automatically goes into intellectualizing, coming up with a story. And I want you to really see if you can drop in from the neck below and notice what happens in the body on a sensory level when I ask you that question. What is happening inside you? Really slowing down to be with the sensations that are arising in your body. Maybe you're noticing a tightening in the chest. Maybe you notice that the neck is stiff. So it doesn't necessarily need to be an answer in words or story, but just slowing down to sense into your body, because your body really knows what you're holding. The mind creates the story. And then once you found that place in your body where you feel like there's some discomfort or is calling your attention, take a moment to just tune in and see, what are you holding in that space? There's usually an emotion that's stuck. And an emotion, as you know, is an energy in motion. So there's some energy that gets stuck in the body and contracts. So where do you notice the contraction in the body right now? And if that part of your body could speak to you right now, what would it say? Yeah, and then if it feels comfortable and available to you, I invite you to place your hand on your heart and just take a moment to acknowledge and to just be with what the body is saying to you. Like, okay, I see that, I see you, I feel that holding, that tightening, I acknowledge it's there. We're not trying to figure it out, to analyze it, just be with that for a moment. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So what you might notice is what may be happening to a lot of you, I'm going to guess, is that you find yourself more agitated, more frustrated, more easily reacting. And then maybe if you have a practice of mindfulness or, you know, some other way of taking care of yourself, you can get some space and you settle yourself, or maybe you don't. It's okay. And you're just noticing that the volume on everything is a little bit higher than usual, right? And what happens is, to our system, to our nervous system, when there's stress, is that the feelings are not felt. So you think you have a lot of emotions, like, but you really, it's like more like a tornado inside you, right? You're just spinning, because that space to actually drop in and feel the feeling, which needs attention to move, there's no time for that because you're in survival mode. So it's really important, in my opinion, to understand what is happening to you on a physiological level, because it's probably happening to your children as well. So the more you understand and can regulate your own system, the easier it is for your children. And you don't even have to teach them or say much, because on a vibrational level, they can sense you. So noticing that, okay, now when I turned inwards, maybe I noticed that I have some stuff inside me, that my body is really tight here. I didn't notice that before. And the reason you don't notice it is because you've been in fight, flight, freeze mode. I'm sure you've heard of this stress response. So you may not know that the mind, which is such a brilliant thing, whether you think that there's a lion chasing you or that there's really a lion chasing you, the body's response is identical. So perceived threat is just as powerful as real threat. So if you spend a lot of time thinking about, I've lost my freedom, what's going to happen next, who's going to get sick, is you know, my mother okay because she's elderly, you know, now corona is really you know, going out of control, whatever you're thinking about, there's a certain amount of fear in your system. So what happens to the body is that it goes into survival mode, and it shuts down all the things that the body thinks it doesn't need. So if you're being chased by a lion, you don't usually think, how am I feeling about this lion right now? Let's see, I'm feeling a bit angry. There's no time for that, right? You're just like, ah! And if you notice, we're sort of in the same kind of being chased by a lion mode. It's either ah or ah, right? So we're either in either extreme. So either you're fighting, which is there's a lot of energy and rage coming out of you to protect yourself, or I don't know, for me, it's really hard to get out of bed in the morning. Like I'm like, फिर से क्या होगा सारा दिन क्या games खेलूंगी क्या करूं, because I haven't entertained a 5-year-old at this level for I don't know how long, right? So I go into freeze mode. I just kind of shut down. I start numbing, or I fantasize about how I could just like run away. Or Muzaffar and I were talking, this is the best time ever to go for a 10-day silent retreat. It's never seemed like a better plan. So, you know, just notice all of the things that are happening in your system alone, and it is actually a neurological function. So it's not that you choose the rage. It's not that you choose to fantasize about running away from your house. It's not that you choose to be crying in the bathroom. It's because your body is really experiencing sort of this life and death. And how do we get past that? Because as soon as you go into this mode, your children automatically, because they're mirror neurons in your brain and their brain. So, you know, they have the experiment when a mother looks at a baby and a mother smiles, the baby smiles, right? So they're mirror neurons that are constantly, or you've seen if one person yawns, the other person yawns. So these are all examples of the mirror neurons in your brain coming alive. So if you have a child in the house and you're in an anxiety survival mode, they will also go into the same mode. And as you and I both know, then we're angry, they're angry, everybody's angry, and we've had a really shit day, right? And let's face it, a lot of us have had some really shit days over the last few months, more than usual. And also we've probably had some stolen moments. I mean, I remember we were quarantined when we landed in Beijing for 14 days. In Beijing, that means that there's a padlock at your door. Like you can't even open the door for air, right? Like they lock you in. And so there's no help, obviously, like, because there's no, I have one maid, but she's not allowed to enter the house. And I had been in Kenya for 27 days, and somehow the universe had given me this gift to take a long pause because they knew what was coming up next. So anyway, when we were quarantined, my son said on day 2, this is really amazing. I don't think we've ever eaten breakfast, lunch, and dinner together without any interruptions. And there was this kind of joy. You know, I could really feel the kids were like, you have nowhere to go and I have nowhere to go. We don't have anyone but each other. And there was, for that day, a little, you know, rainbow cloud over the family, and we were playing Uno and the birds were singing, and it was a, you know, a little poster. And then the next day we were all about to kill each other, right? So this is the other thing. Keeping in mind, one of the learnings, again, to bring that back, is the stress response is really important. And I'm going to teach you some very practical ways to get your nervous system back online so that you are in your parasympathetic nervous system. So what is that? It means that's when you're able to restore, where your immunity can be boosted, because let's face it, we need our immunity right now, right? Your kids need their immunity, you need your immunity in order to stay healthy as well. So these things are really, really important to keep in mind, and I will be teaching you a few tools. But before we go there, something I teach, whether you're in this pandemic mode or not, which I find to be a very powerful learning. Dr. Shefali talks about it as well. Many other teachers talk about it. But if you could pause for a moment, and I don't know if Muzaffar can see the answer keys, if there's a chat box, but feel free to write your response to Muzaffar. If there was one thing that you could say that every human suffers from on this planet, what would it be? What do you think? No matter how rich you are, no matter if you are a supermodel, it doesn't matter. There's always this sense, this feeling that we carry. And I've worked with people for 20 years individually. I've seen a lot of things, but this one thing never stops. Muzaffar, are you getting any answers?
Yeah. Stress, anxiety, guilt, shame, fear, anxiety, loneliness, fear of failure, fear, dissatisfaction, the human condition, regrets, constant pressure, fear of death, sadness, uncertainty.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
to be alone.
Okay.
Fear of the unknown, anxiety, regret, terror,
okay,
losing sanity.
good. I like it. I like it. Keep it coming. Okay. So yes, most of those are true, but we can say that there's a sort of a spectrum, right? On the spectrum, there's some people who may have more anxiety than others, right? But what I'm thinking of is this feeling of not enough, right? This is the most pervasive feeling in the whole world. That, you know, no matter what level you reach, there's always another level. It's just the finish line keeps moving. So, you know, you can become, you know, who's runs triathlons. Then what's their next goal? I want to beat the number. I want to beat my best score, right? You know, there's always some pressure to go somewhere else. In fact, the entire makeup industry, and women face it more, I think, in my opinion, because there's a lot of pressure on the way you physically appear. So a man in his 50s who's balding and has a big gut doesn't seem to carry the same pressure as a woman in her 50s balding with a big gut, right? How often do you see that? Because for men, I think the pressure is more about achieving, providing, you know, so there's like some very old roles that are being played. So the hunter-gatherer, and then there's traditional roles of the women, you know, her mothering is really put to the test. How well can you cook? How do you dress? How do you keep the house? Is it ever enough? And you notice that because we start doing what is called in the world of mindfulness, the comparing mind. It's a very natural phenomena, right? And I know as parents, there's not a single parent here who hasn't compared their child in their mind, if you're really, really honest with yourself. And because, for example, my children know too much because they've seen all my books and notes and books, they call me out on it. And they notice it energetically, even if I don't say it. So I remember this one time we went to Singapore and we stayed at a friend's house, and they have these two girl boys, same age as my older two kids. And when we entered the house, you know, they were very loving kids, and they came, they hugged me, said their salams, took my bags, auntie, can we help you unpack? And then she was playing the piano, and then the boy was cooking dinner in the kitchen, and then they were practicing math. I mean, it was like nauseatingly amazing how good those kids were, right? And I was like, wow, you guys are like incredible. And my kids, day 2 of the holiday, like, we want to leave. I was like, why? They're like, you just want to leave. Because in my mind, I was not enough, because I was thinking, what is this woman doing? And the woman was a lawyer, and parents. So the internalized, it went from, wow, these kids are amazing, to my kids are not doing all of this, which means I must be failing on some level, which means if that's my primary job, I suck, right? And I rolled into this in literally, it happens within a minute. It didn't take me that long to go into this whole thing, right? My kids energetically felt my shame that I carried for myself, which I was placing on them, because then of course I was like, wow, I'm smart enough to know that I can't say, oh, I wish you played the piano like that, or maybe you should practice the piano like that. I didn't say that. I just was complimenting the other child. And my daughter's face was this big. And she's like, I don't want to stay here. I want to leave. And I was like, why? They're such wonderful kids. Yeah, of course, Mom, they're wonderful kids. They're perfect. And that's when I knew. And I hope that you can relate to what I'm saying. I know you can. I've spoken to many parents. We've all been there. We've all done that. And let's take it beyond kids. We've compared our husbands. We've compared our wives. We've compared each other's houses, right? It just doesn't stop. Bodies. It's always something or the other. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is a little reflective exercise, which will connect very quickly to your parenting and hopefully shed some light on the way you see your kids. Because shaming is the most damage that we can do and has been done to us, and it's generational. So you will realize that it wasn't just yours. Your mother did it to you, and her mother did it to her, and it just keeps going. And if we break the cycle, we can save the next generation as well. And it's really powerful work. So what I'm going to invite you to do is close your eyes, and again, find your feet on the floor, and turn the attention inwards, because the only way we can grow and wake up and evolve as human beings is by being really honest with ourselves. And in this kind of situation, you really don't have to share with anyone except yourself. So where are the places in you right now where you don't feel like you're enough? And sometimes they come disguised in sentences like, I should be more ... Or I wish I could, or I would be better if, or I will do that when I lose 10 pounds. So these are all the kind of ways we speak to ourselves, but this is actually the language of not enough. So just allow those messages that you know that you hold true for yourself, that you're aware of right now, to bubble up. And I appreciate that I'm asking you to do something that can be challenging. And you don't have to share this with anybody. And then when you're ready, open your eyes, and I'm going to give you about a minute. And on that paper with a pen, I want you to write down as many things that you can think of that you feel in this moment that you're not good enough in? Okay, so I'm going at Muzaffar's pace because I can't see the rest of you. And now I want you to look at that list and I want you to circle the ones that you see in your children. So look at your paper and see which one of these do I wish my child did more. It usually would look like, for example, mine is that I don't read enough. I'm not a good enough reader, right? And so I would circle that because I'm constantly telling my children to read more. So it's usually the thing you keep saying over and over again to your kids. So just put a star on it or circle it. And just take a moment to pause and just be with that for a moment, because we may have really said some horribly mean things when we've been feeling this vacuum inside us and it's not conscious. And the whole point of mindful parenting or doing this work is to bring what's unconscious into consciousness so that we have more control over our behaviors and our words. So that when your child does something, you find yourself reacting, you have the ability to pause and say, oh, that's my shame button. And that is where there's freedom. And that is where we can really help the next generation, because we don't have to pass it on to them. All the shame that we're carrying on our backs from the ancestors that have come before us, we can unpack that bag and we don't have to give it to them. So how do we do that? So how do we, this deep sense, and I don't care who you are. I've met people who, I used to own a fashion business and I had some models come, and anybody who would look at them would say, perfect. And I would see these women try on clothes and they'd say, yeah, but you know, my left thigh has 1 inch too much fat on it. And it would amaze me. I would be like, really? Wow. And I could see the pain in them, because somewhere as a little girl, she was told that her worth was her body. So unless there was perfection, it was just worth nothing. And that's what shame really feels like. When you are triggered, you go into your own vacuum or your own shame. So if we just, this is the thing that's hardest for most of us to make the leap. If you can understand that every time you are negatively affected by another human, it is merely because you have projected something that's inside you. And that truth is so hard to be with that we will do everything in our power to distract ourselves, right? What do? We shop. Some people drink. Some people watch Netflix on binge level. Some people keep themselves so busy, just busy, right? Because there's so much pain in all of us that is so difficult to turn inwards. And that's why when people show up to these classes, I say, congratulate yourself, because really, this takes courage. This is not an easy walk in the park. to really look at yourself and feel that vulnerability and that pain that you may have already given your kids. And it's not too late. It's never too late. So how do we meet the shame, the vacuum? How do we get to that point where we're just enough? And I've maybe experienced that feeling of enough in like short, brief moments, you know, like 10-minute spurts in a meditation retreat, or when I come out of a Vipassana silent meditation, you know, I really feel like I'm enough because I'm so connected to my authentic, real light. The masks and everything that I need to show has been taken off. And those are the moments when I fully accept myself. And what does that look like? It looks like the ability to be like, you know, before I left, my daughter was squeezing my belly and saying, "Mommy, are you pregnant?" And now, you know, there's a lot of different ways one can react to that. And because I'm really okay with my, laughed and said, "Maybe I am, Zena." And she said, "No, you're not." But it was okay. So the trigger wasn't there for me because I'm okay right now with my body. I'm not always okay. But that's when you feel that, oh yeah, that's what it feels like to sink in and be okay. So you've all experienced that as well. It's already there. We're just peeling the layers off so you can really come into that light that you are. So I'm going to offer you a practice in moments where you notice that shame is arising or that you're not feeling enough. And it usually comes when we make a mistake or somebody confronts us or somebody criticizes us. That's when it really shows itself, right? So I'd like you to again close your eyes for a moment and think of a time in the recent past when you either made a mistake or hurt somebody's feelings or just really felt like you messed up, or you lost it with your kids and then regretted it. So I really want you to go into that experience, and I want you to choose something with the intensity level of 5 on a scale from 0 to 10, because I don't want to bring up too much deep trauma. I'm not there with you. So just keep it moderate, but just allow that memory to come up. And really enter that scene and almost stepping into your body in that moment. And you might notice that you're having the same physical response in your body right now that you did in that moment, which could be your heart is racing. You may feel heat in the back of your neck. You may notice a shortness of breath. So just allow that moment to arise. And notice what you are experiencing on a sensory level in your body. Where is the most contraction in your body right now? What is most uncomfortable? For some people, it's in their jaw, their skull. We all hold it in different places. Just notice that in the body. And then notice what were you feeling in that moment? Maybe there was anger, maybe there was sadness. So just name that feeling. And then notice what you were thinking. What were the thoughts? They must have been coming very quickly. So notice what you were thinking in that moment. And then from the thought, there's some decisions that you were making about yourself and about the other person. So notice what decisions were being made. It could be like, hope change, my child is never going to learn, or I don't know how to take care of my kids, or whatever you were deciding. You can see a sort of a belief that's behind it. And now I would like to introduce sort of the medicine. And the medicine is a self-compassion break. And the first step of this practice is to just acknowledge that this suffering is here, that there is pain and hurt and uncomfortability and shame here in this moment. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's just here. And the second thing I'd like you to do is I invite you to place your hand over your heart or both hands over your heart, or even trying your hands on your face or holding your own hand, whatever skin to skin contact offers you soothing. So if you can, put your hand in your shirt, because when you make skin to skin contact, it's like a baby on a mom or dad. There's actually endorphins released in the system that create soothing. So really feel your skin, the warmth of your body, your flesh. And if you could really be with yourself, if in this moment, the person suffering was a young, innocent child or your best friend, what would you offer? What would you say? And we all have our own language, but would you say, it's okay, or I've got you. I know this is hard right now. I feel you. I feel this. I'm with you. And what would it sound like, that tone in your voice? And that deep intention and that connection of like, yes, I recognize that this is a moment of human suffering and I'm here for you. And then the third step is, I want you to bring to mind, of all the billions of people in the world, how many people may have had a similar emotion. Maybe the situation is different, maybe the race, the country, doesn't matter. But there must be millions, if not billions of people in this world who've experienced the same feeling. And I really want you to tap into that feeling that you are not alone. That this is a universal suffering. That no matter how perfect the neighbor seems, they're not. That they probably had the same pain. And then just take a nice deep breath in and an exhale. And then you can remove your hands and open your eyes and come back into the room. And that was a little bit of an extended version, but when I do it with myself, it's 1, 2, 3, and I'll send you the resources. And just like, okay, this is tough. Giving myself some love around that. And thirdly, being like, and guess what, Mas, you're not alone. I know there's other people who are going through this right now. So that is the kind of moment and the sort of way, and this is a practice. Self-compassion is not buying yourself chocolate cake or giving yourself a nice long tub bath, even that's beautiful stuff to do to yourself, but that's not what it is. Self-compassion is, when you practice this over and over and over again, what happens is you start accepting yourself. You become kinder to yourself when you're not perfect. And what do you think happens automatically? Yes, the kids, the neighbor, the neighbor's dog, everybody benefits because you have this gentle attitude. And that's what mindfulness really is. It's about bringing presence to whatever the experience is, but the attitude that you bring the presence. So yes, when you see a beautiful tree and you're completely aware of it and you're present for this beautiful experience and the breeze is blowing, yeah, the attitude is not that difficult, right, to manage, because you're usually in a kind, non-judgmental space. So the next level of presence is when it isn't that beautiful and easy. Can you then accept things the way they are? And that and I'm going to close out the session now and wrap up, but so that exercise, and I'm going to do one more exercise with you, which is just really, really simple, and it's called stop. So mindfulness doesn't have to be practiced by having a formal meditation sitting on a pillow. That's a very small part of it. You can bring moments of presence throughout the day to whatever you're doing. And you're like, well, why is that important, or why should I bother? The reason is because you're probably caught in this stress survival mode, and it's a break. It's a break from your own crazy thinking, right? So when you bring presence to something like brushing your teeth, taking a shower, how many people are actually in the shower when they're in the shower, right? Most of us are in the shower, but we're already somewhere else. We don't experience the shower. And my husband says, but I do my best planning in the shower. I have to think through all my meetings of the day, right? And then I'm like, and then what happens when you're in the meeting? Well, I'm thinking about the next meeting. And then what happens at that meeting? And then so you end up spending your whole life in the next moment. Good. And so you miss the great moments, and you also try to avoid the bad moments, but it doesn't work. So what I'm inviting you to do is take breaks and pauses. And there's a wonderful app called the Lotus Bell, and and I'll share the resources. And on my phone, it goes off every hour. It's just like a dong. And no matter where I am or what I'm doing, I'll just stop for a second. I'll take one breath and I'll check in, and I'll be like, oh my God, I've been thinking about this ridiculous scenario. I've been lost in for 1 hour. I've completely lost reality of where I am. And I can usually pull myself back out. So that is one technique that I'd really, invite you to try. You don't have to have a formal meditation practice to try it. You just have to be able to take a breath, and all of you can do that. So I hope that those were helpful to you. I mean, there's so much content. There's so much I could talk about. And I have limited time, but I'd love to hear your questions and see how everyone's doing.
Great. No, thank you so much, MASOOMA. This, for me especially, this felt like very needed, and I really enjoyed doing all the exercises. So thank you for that. And I think just energetically, I could sense a lot of participants who are with us. We can't see them, but just the sense I was getting through the exercises. So thank you for that. What we will do is that we will send out the resources which you have talked about. In an email to all the registered participants, and we can also share. So MASOOMA does offer like longer courses on parenting, which includes conscious parenting with mindfulness techniques and everything. So this was just a glimpse of what you saw. So I can send out those details to the registered participants as well. And she's doing it digitally now. Otherwise, in the past, she's done it at VLC or wherever she's visiting. She does in-person trainings as well. So we'll keep you posted. MASOOMA, we do have a bunch of questions, but I just wanted to there were a few which was more, geared towards, and I think some of them have already been answered by your talk, but I'll just put it out there that, a lot of parents are seeing that their kids are a lot more sensitive, or they're having anxiety, they're more frustrated, they're aggressive, they're hitting the siblings. So how does one handle that kind of situation with their kids right now? So it's more behavioral, which is anxiety, but also aloof, and a wide series of unpleasant behavior or emotions which the kids are facing right now.
Yeah. So I appreciate the question. I know that it's alive in every home, including mine. And I think if you reflect and pause for a moment, I think you'll agree with me that when you are not anxious and stressed, you know exactly how to respond. And you don't need anyone to tell you, because no one is in your life or with your kids. So that's why I'm not a big behavioralist. I'm more about how do you bring presence and calm and know your stress triggers. Then the positive discipline program, which I also teach with the mindful parenting, is the second step. But I can give you 20 techniques. But if you can't self-regulate and ground yourself in the moment and control your own anxiety, and I'm going to guess, if you reflect, the moments when your kids are most anxious or irritable is usually when you are. It's very rare that I am incredibly grounded and peaceful and present and my kids are going crazy. I don't think that's ever happened in my home. So I always, it's either me, my husband, or my mother, or someone. There's someone in the energetic field that is creating that in their system and they're reacting. But behaviorally speaking, if you want to know about siblings, what positive discipline says is that when siblings are fighting, they're actually trying to divide you into getting you on one team. And the sooner you can build sort of the tough skin to say, it's kind and firm. So I walk into the room and I say, I love you, Aslan, I love you, Zena, and I hope you can work this out. And I exit. And when I've already told them in a peaceful moment, I love you guys and I cannot take sides. And you guys are brother and sister and you have to work this out. So don't come and tell me, because I'm always going to have the same response. And they still come and tell me, and I say in a calm, peaceful moment. So notice my tone. It's can't get leave and because I don't, when you're not there, say, by the way, your kids tried to kill each other while you weren't here. No, that's never happened. So that is my quick technique. But can you say it in this tone? That is my challenge to you. Because usually it's like, Pascaro! Or stop doing that to your sister. You're so mean to your sister. How many times? And the sister's like, yes, mommy, he's so mean to me. And then the brother is saying, you never take my side. You only love her, right? That's the usual drama that happens in every house. So I hope that answers the question.
No, that was helpful. Great. We'll just have one last question now because I know we are running out of time. And in terms of the question regarding resources, yes, they will be shared. So we will share those resources. This is a question, this was done anonymously, but they say that the couple is going through a separation. So how do we manage this for the kids? But if I make this question more broadly, for families who are going through a difficult time of a transition, or it could be like a crisis of sort, be it a financial thing, we have some parents who might have lost their jobs or something of that nature. How do we kind of manage that difficult transition while being with the kids, but also managing them as well?
So my answer to every question first begins with manage yourself. Because depending on your level of personal management and how much peace you've made, have you done the work around the separation? Because whatever it is that you're reflecting, the kids are going to pick up on. So the first thing is to get support for yourself, to really sort through your own emotions. And I'm not saying that you can sort them through and put them in a box and then you come back, you're like, oh, now I'm very peaceful, I can take care of my kids. That's not going to happen. But you have to have some level of awareness around your own emotions so that you can be sort of that anchor for them. Because again, coming back to what I said in the beginning of the lecture, connection is about to be broken. And whenever there's a break in connection, that's when you see disruption. And it can be from dropping your child to school, which is for them a mini death, breaking of connection, to a divorce, right? They're just different levels of the break. And there's a wonderful teacher who does attachment theory, and in my research, I was listening to him, and he said that, so when there's a separation or a trauma of any kind that's happening, we need to let them know that the connection between them and us is still there. So there's some really great children's books, like one called The Invisible String. I don't know if you've ever read it, but I will start with the smaller example, like you're dropping your child to school, and I see this all the time, especially with younger kids, of course. The older kids don't want their parents near the school, but the younger kids don't want to go to the classroom. So what we do is we do deferred connection, right? So you play on the connection that exists, like you're still their mother, no matter if they stay at school or not. Don't worry, mommy still will be at home and I will be thinking about you. Or mommy will miss you too. Or guess what? Mommy will be back at 5 o'clock and we will be together again. So it's that deferred connection, because then in their mind, it's not being severed, which is the trauma, right? It's just like, okay, yes, you're right. We are still connected. We are still together. So the invisible string theory is like, no matter where you go, we're always connected. And now if you talk about a separation, the first thing to acknowledge is this is hard. This isn't going to be easy. I think as parents, we're so nervous and we have so much guilt about something like that happening that we want to make it okay and we want them to be okay. So can you be okay with not being okay? You and them. Only when you can reach that space will they be able to let go. So that's a short answer for a very long conversation.
I love the invisible string analogy. No, great. Thank you so much, MASOOMA. I think we will wrap. We are getting a few messages privately saying thank you so much. This was much needed. Let's hold them more regularly. Fingers crossed. But great. Thank you so much. What we will do is that once you send us the resources and your course details, we could then send it over to all registered participants. And thank you for figuring out, thanks to your son who helped you figure out the Zoom thing. I'm glad it worked out. Thank you. I know it's a bit late now. It's like 10:15 in China.
I'm a night owl. It's fine. It's early for me.
Take care. Thank you so much. Thanks to all the participants. You want to say something?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you to the participants. And like I said, I really want you to leave with this in your heart, that you're not alone. No matter how much I study this, I'm still just as lost as you are, except maybe I have a little tiny bit of awareness that I'm lost. So I'm lost, but I know I'm lost. So I hope you can also know that you're lost while you're lost. And also, when you start these practices, you'll notice the biggest takeaway for me after starting this mindfulness practice is I still make a lot of mistakes. I'm just much nicer to myself. That's the key. I just become okay with not being perfect. I'm just a lot more like, yeah, I know. And my kids are like, Mom, I don't know what kind of parenting that was. I was like, I know, guys, I'm new at this too. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, why am I supposed to know exactly what to do? They don't know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's okay because I keep coming back and trying. But when I have that shame, and I'm constantly trying to be perfect, I'm paralyzed and I'm angry and I'm shaming and it doesn't work. So I would be happy to work with your parents, and I can just do a closed VLC group. So it's only for VLC parents, and we can cater it to whatever everyone's needs are. So I'm happy I'm here, and I would love to do deeper work with you because you're here. It means you want it. But thank you for listening. And Muzaffar, thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Bye. Thank you, everyone.